The crash of President Airlines Flight 329 on September 10, 1961, remains one of the deadliest aviation disasters of its time. The aircraft, a Douglas DC-6B, was en route from Düsseldorf, West Germany, to Shannon, Ireland, with a planned final destination of Chicago, Illinois. It was carrying 80 passengers and 3 crew members. As it approached Shannon Airport for a scheduled stop, the plane encountered severe difficulties, leading to a catastrophic crash that claimed the lives of all on board. The investigation later determined that a combination of engine failure and pilot error contributed to the tragedy. This disaster was not only a devastating event for the families of the victims, but also a significant moment in aviation history, leading to further scrutiny of pilot training, aircraft maintenance, and emergency procedures. The Douglas DC-6 was a well-regarded aircraft in its era, known for its reliability and long-range capabilities. It had been developed as a successor to the DC-4 and was designed to meet the growing demands of commercial aviation in the post-World War II period. By the time of the President Airlines crash, the DC-6 had already established a solid safety record, making the accident all the more shocking. President Airlines was a small American charter airline operating international flights, often serving routes that connected Europe and North America. Though not one of the major airlines of its time, it had built a reputation for providing transatlantic services at competitive rates. The passengers on board that day included a diverse mix of individuals, including businessmen, tourists, and expatriates returning home. As Flight 329 approached Shannon, weather conditions were relatively stable, with no severe turbulence or storms reported in the area. However, shortly before the final descent, the flight crew reported issues with one of the engines. Witnesses on the ground and other pilots in the vicinity later confirmed seeing smoke trailing from one of the aircraft's 4 engines. While the loss of an engine was not necessarily catastrophic for a DC-6, the subsequent actions taken by the crew played a crucial role in determining the fate of the flight. The investigation revealed that the crew may have mismanaged the emergency, failing to follow optimal procedures for handling an engine failure during approach. As the aircraft descended, it became evident that it was losing altitude too rapidly. The pilots attempted to compensate, but their actions inadvertently led to further complications. The plane was observed banking sharply before entering a near-vertical dive, crashing into a rural area just a few miles from Shannon Airport. The impact was devastating, causing an explosion that was heard for miles. Rescue teams arrived quickly, but there were no survivors. The wreckage was scattered over a wide area, and the scene was described as horrific by first responders. Given the intense fire caused by the fuel on board, identification of the victims was a challenging and heart-wrenching process. The investigation into the crash was conducted by Irish aviation authorities, with assistance from experts in the United States. One of the first priorities was to determine whether mechanical failure alone was responsible, or if pilot error had played a role. The recovered flight data and witness testimonies indicated that while the engine failure was a significant factor, the pilot's response was not optimal. It appeared that they had struggled to maintain control and possibly made incorrect control inputs in their attempts to stabilize the aircraft. The final report concluded that a combination of engine failure and inadequate handling of the emergency led to the crash. The findings prompted discussions within the aviation industry about the need for improved training for pilots in handling engine failures, particularly during critical phases of flight such as takeoff and landing. While simulators were already in use at the time, this accident underscored the importance of rigorous emergency procedure drills to ensure pilots could respond effectively in real-life situations. Additionally, the crash led to renewed emphasis on maintenance protocols for aging aircraft, as some concerns were raised about whether the failed engine had shown warning signs before departure. For the families of the victims, the crash of Flight 329 was an unimaginable tragedy. Many had loved ones who were traveling for work, vacations, or to reunite with family. The loss of 83 lives sent shockwaves through multiple countries as the passengers came from various nationalities. Memorial services were held in Ireland, Germany, and the United States, with airline officials and government representatives attending to offer condolences. The Irish government worked closely with international agencies to facilitate the repatriation of remains, a process that was both logistically complex and emotionally painful for the bereaved families. President Airlines faced significant legal and financial challenges in the aftermath of the crash. While the airline had insurance, the lawsuits filed by families placed immense pressure on the company. The airline struggled to recover from the reputational damage and financial strain, eventually ceasing operations within a few years. The aviation industry, however, learned valuable lessons from the tragedy. The crash reinforced the necessity of stringent safety regulations and continuous improvements in pilot training and aircraft maintenance. The legacy of the disaster contributed to advancements that helped prevent similar incidents in the future. Shannon Airport, one of Ireland's key aviation hubs, also took steps to review its emergency response protocols in light of the crash. While the airport had a capable rescue team, the severity of the crash highlighted the need for even quicker response measures and improved coordination with local authorities. The Irish government worked closely with international aviation bodies to refine airport safety standards, ensuring that lessons from Flight 329's tragic end were not forgotten. Years later, aviation enthusiasts and historians continue to study the crash of President Airlines Flight 329 as a case study in emergency response failures and the evolution of aviation safety standards. While technology has dramatically improved since 1961, the fundamental lessons about human factors, emergency preparedness, and aircraft maintenance remain relevant. The crash serves as a somber reminder of the risks inherent in aviation and the ongoing responsibility of the industry to prioritize safety above all else. Despite the passage of time, the memory of the passengers and crew who lost their lives on that fateful day remains honored. A small memorial was later established near the crash site, commemorating the lives lost and serving as a place for reflection for those who continue to remember the tragedy. Survivors' families have kept the memory of their loved ones alive, some even advocating for continued improvements in airline safety in their honor. The story of President Airlines Flight 329 is one of loss, lessons learned, and the enduring commitment to making aviation safer. While the pain of the tragedy can never be erased, the advancements in aviation safety that followed serve as a testament to the resilience of the industry and the ongoing effort to prevent such disasters in the future.